We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tuesday night. Welcome to a live wrap-up of NFL Cutdown Day. Of course, today, the day that the 32 NFL teams had to be down to 53 players by 3 p.m. this afternoon Central Time. So, of course, your Minnesota Vikings were sitting at 91 players, so had a lot to do. Some surprises, some not so much, but we figured Tuesday night was a great night to go over it since it's all fresh in our mind, everything that happened. So we'll get into that here just a second. Good evening, Dave. Good evening, Ant, Dan, Nick, Josh, everybody else in the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Nick wondering if something happened today. Not much, so don't have to worry about it. Before we get started, yes, and thank you for reminding me on this one. Happiest of birthdays to the legendary Scott Studwell. Wasn't thinking I should have put the Studwell jersey on for this, but 70 years old today. It looks like he could still kill it in the NFL. Yeah, he still got that look that if he stares at you the wrong way, it can make you piss your pants. But
definitely easily in the top 3 Vikings linebackers of all time, I believe. So
one of the first guys I remember watching play. And
yeah, he played for a long time too.
Yep. Skull Mafia, good evening. Yeah, and you know that iconic look of Studwell. We have it in our intro there, where you have just the camera scrolling up, and all you see is the blood up the pants, and like I said, that that stare that he's got is just, he doesn't have to say anything. He can just glare at you, and it's lesser men have cowered in terror over that.
He was in the league at just like the end of the golden era of football, honestly, before things really started to change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was still that old school punch you in the mouth and
right. I'm going to kick your fucking ass
kind of stuff.
Field, literally,
yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we start into the roster movements for today, couple of news items just to get out of the way. The Dallas Cowboys finally got a deal done with wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, signing a 4-year, $136 million contract extension.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
$34 million average annual value, putting him just below the 4 years, $140 million that Justin Jefferson got. But he is, as of right now, the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So they got that one done. A couple other ones interesting. The San Francisco 49ers still dealing with some contract issues. Of course, the Brandon Ayuk thing has been front and center for most of the offseason. Still no movement there. Although I did hear that they maybe are a little bit closer. But this one popped up this afternoon and could have some bearing on your Minnesota Vikings as well. Left tackle Trent Williams also looking for a new contract, and word is he will not or does not plan on playing until he gets a contract update.
So, he's getting up there in age though too, isn't he?
He is. He's in his 30s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, though, I'm gonna side with Williams here. He absolutely should not play until he gets that contract, and if that takes till week 3, I wouldn't play before week 3 if I was him. Absolutely not. Sit out until week 3 and show them that you mean business.
Still playing at a high level.
Yeah.
But yes, if it comes to waiting until you get the right number, anytime after week 2 sounds good to me.
Yep. And it's in his best interest too, because he doesn't want to play against the Vikings in week 2 and have Dallas Turner, a rookie, come in and just boat race him up one side of US Bank Stadium and down the other. Good evening, Brian. Welcome from Tampa. Then beyond that, one Vikings related contract thing that happened this week. The Vikings restructured the contract of safety / Swiss Army knife Josh Metellus, adding 3 void years to his contract.
They
Basically,
say it's a very telling thing with the 3 void years on that contract, saying most likely going to be an extension in the near future.
Yep. And it also, and right now that it actually lowers at least this year's cap hit, and I think next year's as well, down to basically what his cap hit was before this.
Right.
Some speculation now that maybe this means that there's something else coming down the pipe, a Cam Bynum extension. He's due for an extension, and they have been allegedly talking a little bit. So maybe this is a way to move some money around, being they, just signed Stephon Gilmore last week and took up a big chunk of what they had for salary cap space. So,
well, ideally, if Hitman's gone next year, you're going to want to keep somebody like Cam Bynum around. So,
oh, absolutely. Even if Harrison Smith is still here, I want to keep Cam Bynum around.
Yeah, at this point, you don't know with Harrison Smith whether he's going to be gone or play forever. So,
no,
and he's still playing at a competent level. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing too. I mean, I ain't bitching about Harrison Smith still being here. He's still putting up good games and playing at least at an average level, among safeties as far as that goes.
Well, and Josh Metellus and Cam Bynum both have been playing extremely well, especially since
also helps
Flores
out Harrison Smith's case.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. Of course, the A topic was, the main thing here for the last couple of days, figuring out the 53-man roster. There were some trades being worked today. Ultimately, nothing got done. So
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long shot. I, at least was hoping that we could have got, a 7th round pick or something for a couple of these guys, and at least would have been better than nothing. But
we've discussed it in prior episodes. But at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise me that we weren't able to even get some later round picks. But it is what it is.
Right.
We just got to go with what we got. So.
And while we're sitting here right now, what we currently have on the 53-man roster may not be what's on the 53-man roster come kickoff
next week. Right.
Against the Giants next week. Yeah. But with that, let's get into, of course, the meat and potatoes of the night, the roster cutdowns and movement. And when we start talking about these guys, any comments, questions on them, of course, as always, bring them up and we'll talk about them, get your guys' opinions on them. You'll get Brunswick's and my opinion on it. And while we're sitting here too, remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube, if you're not already. Start off with sure. We'll start with this before we go into that. Do we win week one? Sunny. Uh, we should win week one. I mean, week one it's awful hard to say that it's a must-win game, but it kind of is a must-win game because that first chunk of the season is brutal.
I think we win week one, and then we'll discuss that more episode in our preview. But
we'll talk about that next week when we preview the game itself. But the Giants are kind of a mess right now.
I mean, if there's anybody in the league that you want to start out week one with, I believe the Giants is a good pull.
Yep. You know, I didn't personally watch Hard Knocks, but I heard some of the stuff and some of the other parts about this with the Giants being basically a clusterfuck, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know, the whole deal with Daniel Jones. Again, he damn well better be buying Ed Donatel very nice Christmas gifts for the next few years because that's the only reason why he hasn't got a contract extension in there. And, you know, the fact that they kind of made no bones about it, I guess, that they were actually looking to get a quarterback. Now, you know, they ended up taking wide receiver there, Malik Neighbors, instead of a quarterback at 6, thankfully, because,
right.
You know, and we talked about that at length back at during the draft. But anyway, let's get started on the cut downs. We'll go through position by position and, you know, kind of talk about them all here. And, you know, if a guy jumps out that you think should be a practice squad candidate, should they clear waivers, you know, we'll bring that up as well. So Giants will be in the Quinn Ewers sweepstakes next year. We probably ain't. Ewers or Shadur Sanders or whoever, you know, the top quarterback comes out as next year. We don't know yet, but they're definitely going to be in the market. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Vikings go into the season carrying 3 with, of course, Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, and Jaren Hall making the roster. This was another thing that happened yesterday that may have changed the thinking a little bit on this. There was a rule that had been voted upon by the owners that was going to allow the third quarterback to be on the practice squad and be able to be called up, you know, to be active on game days without counting against the game day roster. But the NFLPA vetoed it yesterday, which means the third quarterback has to be on the active roster in order to be able to be that
eligible for the game
emergency quarterback on game days. So,
yep.
So Jaren Hall does make the roster. Matt Corral, no big surprise, is the one cut. You're not too late, Doc. We're just getting into the meat and potatoes, so no worries.
Yep.
Corral, you know, was a camp arm that they brought in once J.J. McCarthy went down. Was never really expected that there would be much there. So, you know, no big surprise he was let go there. This next group, though, was kind of interesting. The running back group. As it sits right now, the Vikings have 2 running backs on the roster, 3 if you count CJ Ham, but Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler are your only 2 running backs currently on the roster. Released were Mo Ibrahim, Myles Gaskin, Dwayne McBride, and this was kind of the surprise of the day for a lot of people, Kene Nwangwu. Now, didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I was watching Anthony Nwangwu's not coming back to the practice squad, and I'm going to tell you why right here unless this doesn't work out. I was watching a hat tip to One Barn Lupicus earlier today, and they said that they had heard that this was kind of a mutual parting of ways between the Vikings and Kane, because he wants to go someplace where he's going to get a larger amount of playing time in the offense. With as the Vikings as the third running back. I mean, we were pushing for, a handful of plays a game and then his kick return duties, but he wanted, and fair enough, has he shown that he can do that? I don't know, but I think they learned their lesson last year with the Alex Madison thing, to not guarantee something like that and keep somebody around that's maybe doesn't fit in their plans. Kind of telling, I guess, looking back at this, I didn't really think too much of it at the time, but AJ, Skull for Life, good evening. But, it's kind of surprising that Kane Nwangwu did not return any kicks in the preseason either. At one time, I had thought that maybe that was by design because he was safe on the roster and they didn't want to get him hurt. But Thomas, good question. Now that Kane is gone, I have heard, I guess, at least initially, probably Ty Chandler, potentially somebody like Jalen Naylor, Brandon Powell, somebody like that could also jump in there and return kicks. We will find out, I guess, once the depth chart is released here, probably it'll have to be by next week anyway. What are your thoughts, Lance, on the fact we only have 2 running backs right now?
Well, first off, going back to the quarterbacks, I think
Okay.
Jaren Hall completely played himself onto the roster this preseason.
Absolutely.
I think the first and foremost thought was he was going to play. He might play okay, but I didn't think he was expected to play as well as he did, especially after that first game. And that basically cemented him onto the 53-man roster, which then, as we all know, takes a spot away from somebody else. But yes, that last game Jaren Hall played, excellent game. Best game I've seen Jaren Hall play as a Viking, preseason, regular season, So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, but at the same time, he played himself onto the roster. So does that make Mullins expendable? I don't know. Obviously, the team doesn't think so they kept Mullins as well. Now, yeah, obviously with the running back situation, that Kane Nwangwu was probably, I think, to most of us, the biggest surprise of the roster cuts today. And yeah, more power to Kenny. I mean, he showed he has developed in that running back role, and he had some good runs this preseason to show that he did. I think maybe him not taking kickoffs this preseason was telling that he was on the bubble. And I mean, when we first, after the regular season ended last year, we had speculated how much longer Kane Nwangwu would be around, just because his biggest thing was just to return kicks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, bit of a surprise. Running with 2 running backs doesn't really bother me. And Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler, and then depending on who we bring back to the practice squad, I could see Gaskins coming back to the practice squad depending on how things shake out. But yeah, I mean, I'm cool to run right now with. I don't expect us to run with just 2, but the 2 that we do have, and then CJ Ham plugged in there as well. I'm okay with that. So,
yeah, I could see CJ Ham getting a more involved role as your third down back. I mean, we don't
have that power runner, that true power runner. We got Aaron Jones and then our scat back and Ty Chandler. So it'll be interesting. I look for them to bring somebody else in, either on the practice squad or adding somebody to the 53.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance Myles Gaskin comes back to the practice squad.
Yeah,
if nobody claims him. Mo Abraham possibly as well. Dwayne McBride, I think the ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Probably.
But you know what? I think Gaskins had a lot of good reps in preseason. He had a lot of good runs, where he was getting a burst of 7 and 8 yards per, every carry, or not every carry, but a few carries here and there where he's getting big chunk yards. And I liked what I seen out of Gaskins. So it will be interesting to see how that running back room shakes out the next week.
Yeah. Very good point by Dave here too. They may wait until after week 1 to sign a veteran so that you're not guaranteeing a roster spot. and guaranteeing the contract as well.
There you go. Yep.
Can Kane-Nwangwu go someplace else and contribute? I think he probably can. I'm just kind of looking over the stuff. His style, I think, would fit in really well in Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody like Andy Reid, maybe.
Denver.
I'm not so sure about Denver, but maybe, with McVay in LA, or possibly, McDaniel down in Miami.
He'll be on
like
a roster. You'll be on a roster come game day. I guarantee that.
Oh yeah, he will. I mean, somebody will pick him up just for his kick return ability.
Right.
AJ, did the chef sign with Dallas? Have not heard of a signing yet. I know he was headed down there today to meet with the Cowboys.
I think he had a meeting last night with.
Oh, was it the meeting yesterday?
Cowboys,
Yeah, okay. I got my days.
Yeah, of course, there's a speculation about him returning to Minnesota. I don't even want to touch that. So,
nah. Of course, I was talking to a guy on Twitter X this afternoon after all this, and he wanted to bring Adrian Peterson back, but Adrian's 39 years old, hasn't run in 3 years, and wasn't any good for the 3 years prior to that. So, yeah, I know. We can sign him for a one-day contract and have him retire as a Viking.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah, whenever he wants to retire.
That's all. Yeah. Anything more on the running backs?
I think we're good there.
Okay. There are a couple of guys out there that did get released. Donta Foreman is one that, you talked about having that bruiser power back that wouldn't mind taking a look at. Got some other guys, Matt Breida, Kareem Hunt. Those guys are both starting to get a little long in the tooth. I'm not sure about either of them. Some questioning. Good evening, Norsefius. A couple of the guys down in Houston that maybe were on the bubble. Cam Akers was one of them. Pierce was the other one. Anthony has been pounding the table for Frank Gore Jr. for about the last.
I'd be
10
all
minutes.
right with that, but
yeah, I'd be okay with at least bringing him in, putting him on the practice. If you pick him on waivers, he has to go on the roster. But if he passes through and they don't put him back on their practice squad,
right, he's got to clear waivers before he can.
But as a rookie, he wouldn't take much. But is there somebody currently on the roster that you're willing to let go to bring in a Frank Gore Jr.? I don't know. All right, we'll move on to the tight ends next then. Of course, first off, TJ Hawkinson was left on the physically unable to perform list, which automatically reverts him to the reserve pup, meaning he will miss at least the first 4 games. That was the plan. According to Doogie Wolfson, that's been the plan all along. And there was really been no thoughts of him coming back until probably after the week 6 bye.
Right.
So,
right.
Which
I think it all just depends on how things are
makes
playing
sense.
out, to be honest with you. If he's ready to go by week 5 and he feels like he can jump in and make an impact in the game, then you let him run or, whatever. I think it just depends on what the situation looks like come week 5 with Hawkinson. So.
Yeah. Yep. Beyond that, we currently have 3 tight ends on the roster. Josh Oliver, the world's greatest third tight end, and Johnny Munt, and Brunswick's boy Nick Muse. So released were tight end Sammy Reyes, who probably can come back to the practice squad underneath that international thing and not count as a spot. So I would look for him maybe to come back. Tight end Neil Johnson, guy they just brought in here a week or so ago.
Yeah. Yep.
N'Keal Harry released.
A little bit of a surprise there. A little bit of a surprise there. Yeah,
I think the third tight end came down to between him and Nick Muse, and
it was Nick Muse's spot to lose, and he didn't lose it. So obviously, but yeah,
I can see N'Keal Harry coming back to the practice squad.
Absolutely.
And, continuing to work on developing that tight end stuff. Robert Tonyan, again, he looked great early on, but he dealt with back issues for most of training camp, and for as much miles on the tires as Tonyan had, he's probably done.
Yeah, and that's the rumor, is that his body's just, it's done. Can't take football anymore.
Yeah.
So
at Northfield, I'm not even going to bring that stupid stuff up because it's stuff from 4 years ago and it doesn't even bother, or it isn't even worth talking about.
no.
So as it says, we're rolling in with 3 tight ends for at least the first 6 weeks.
I'm okay with that because CJ Ham is kind of a tool in himself where you could use him in a hybrid fullback position mode, out at like Jimmy Kleinsasser back in the day.
Yeah. He's a tool in a good way, not in a bad way.
Right. Yeah, he's a lot like Kleinsasser. You could use him in that tight end as a blocker and, back as a runner too, at fullback or a lead blocker as well. So lunch pail type of guy.
Yep. Okay, then on to the wide receiver list. We kept 6 as we had discussed the other night. Jefferson, Addison, Powell, Naylor, Sherfield, and Tristan Jackson.
The right 6 guys, I believe we kept. We kept the right 6 receivers, I believe.
Yeah.
I think if we were to keep 7, I think Lucky
so
Jackson was right there on the edge, peeking in, but we kept the right 6 guys.
Nobody keeps 7 wide receivers though, usually.
Right.
Not unheard of, but I can't remember the last time it happened. But so that means recently signed wide receiver Justin Hall, the aforementioned Lucky Jackson, wide receiver Jashawn Jones, Thayer Thomas, all released. And Malik Knowles was waived with an injury designation, meaning if he passes through waivers, he will revert back to the team and be put on injured reserve, which I think is their plan there.
I look for 3 of those guys to possibly take up roster spots on the practice squad, and that being Justin Hall, Lucky Jackson, and then there was the third guy. Who else was out there that we had? Not Thomas.
Jashawn Jones.
Yeah, Jones. Is the third guy I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's probably the same 3 that I was thinking. They kind of like Justin Hall, but they just haven't seen enough of him in a crowded room. He had a touchdown catch on Saturday.
He made quite the impression in his debut game, the last preseason game. So
yeah. Little bit Northfield, but looking at some of the depth and stuff, I'm not quite sure that it was.
Right.
Knowles had a good
touchdown in preseason game too, I think. But yeah, it was a decent.
And they like Malik Knowles. He's been around here for a couple of years now and stuff. And this is, a way to keep him, with the injury designation. I don't think they're looking at anybody else out there on the wide receiver market.
I don't believe so either. No.
I think they're happy with the guys that they've got. Tristan Jackson, proved his mettle in the preseason games and by all accounts in practice and everything else. Sherfield, we talked about him being on the bubble. I think they like him for the blocking ability.
I think this receiver room is a great receiver room. I think, for a grade, I would give it a B+, A-, as far as talent goes.
Zone, good evening. Welcome to the show. Good long time no see. All right, so done with the wide receiver group here now. Unless you got anything else you want to hit on those guys?
Kept the right 6 guys there.
Yeah, I think so too. On to the offensive line. Couple of minor surprises here, but
absolutely.
Start off, the kind of the rumor was going around that Dalton Reisner would be let go. He was not. He was put on short-term injured reserve, eligible to turn to the team after week 4. Surprised on that one?
Not necessarily. I mean, a little bit. Just being as he's a veteran, you'd think he would use a younger guy in that spot, but no, not necessarily. I think, and that goes to say, depending on how Ingram plays the first 4 weeks of the season. So
yeah,
I think Feeney's the backup to the left guard. I think Feeney's Brando's backup, and Juergens is Bradbury's backup.
Now, Juergens did struggle a bit here the last couple of weeks, but I think they like him. They like his potential. So Feeney is there as Feeney is there as that extra security blanket, I think, so to speak,
where he could do both if needed.
Yep.
Not at the same time, but
right. That'd be pretty impressive. He could do it.
That would be damn impressive.
But the guys on the offensive line that were released, again, recently signed Chuck Chick-fil-A Biliaga, Doug Nestor, Matt Cindric, who also came in not too long ago, Spencer Rowland, and Henry Bird. Now, Bird was kind of interesting. There was some people starting to speculate he was actually going to stick on the roster because he was one of the last guys that was announced as a cut.
Yeah, I was surprised they let Tyrese Robinson go.
Yeah.
That was my biggest surprise of cuts along the line. And that happened right away. What was it, Sunday, that he got cut? And that was a huge surprise to me. I was rooting for the kid to make the 53, but.
Yeah, I think it was this morning he got released, wasn't it?
Either or, he's released. Yeah. I think the plan is to bring him back to the practice squad, but I don't know that he makes it that far.
They want him on the practice squad. I know that because, I mean, we heard the other day about, how KOC really likes the kid and was talking him up before. So their goal is to get him on the practice squad. I think they probably will.
I honestly think Ingram's just got that right guard position locked down because he was a second-round draft pick, and that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I want to see a jump. I want to see a jump in improvement, and I have not fucking seen that.
No. I mean, we do know. I mean, we know that a lot of times it takes a couple, 3 years for, especially the interior offensive linemen, to get into their prime, but we will see.
I think they're flipping coins into a well and hoping that he just shows up one day.
Well, I mean, he has shown up at times.
Consistent. He's been anything but consistent at that right guard position.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think they're going to get him onto the practice squad. Some of those other ones, I think Bird might come back. They seem like they kind of like him. I guess I don't have a huge opinion on Henry Bird one way or the other, but
I mean, that's just sad if that's the case.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Robinson, I would have rather felt better trotting Robinson out there to start at right guard than Eddie Ingram. Granted, he has the experience, but that experience doesn't seem to be paying off, in my opinion. So,
yeah. Thomas on, does Reisner take Ed Ingram's spot when he gets back? It all depends on how Ingram is playing after those first 4 games.
Just said that about 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And depends on what they're wanting to do too. If they're trying to make more of an emphasis to the run, Dalton Reisner's not that great in run defense. He's a much better pass protector.
And let's not forget that this would be Reisner's first time starting at right guard in the NFL game. So
correct. And with the limited amount of practice that he had before he got hurt, we didn't see him in any of the preseason games. Is he ready to go there? That remains to be seen, but
time is flying tonight. We better keep rolling.
Yeah. All right. So with that, let's move over to the defensive side of things here. Starting off with the defensive line, kind of a couple of surprises there. Fan favorite Levi Drake Rodriguez did make the final 53.
Biggest surprise.
And even bigger surprise. I mean, I'm not surprised that LDR made it. I had him picked.
No, not him being the biggest surprise, but this other guy.
The other guy, Taki Timani, made the final 53. Kid played his ass off during training camp.
That wasn't my biggest surprise. I had him on my initial 53. Jalen Redmond making the 53.
Jalen Redmond, yeah, that was the other one. I was just getting to him. Now is Redmond, I kind of got it pegged as one of those guys that, if we bring in somebody else, he might be the odd man out.
I don't know. He's kind of a workhorse along the defensive line. I mean, coming in, I think he was just a camp body coming in. I don't think he was expected to make the 53. The fact that he worked his way onto the 53 the way he did, I think it's going to be hard to shove him off unless his play just drops.
And maybe that becomes the case, and he sticks, and somebody like Jonathan Bullard doesn't, or something. I don't.
Well,
know.
one of the best defensive linemen in the UFL. So I mean, that's saying enough. And the fact that he put in the work and made an NFL roster, that's saying a lot.
Right.
So,
but the guys that were
really
released,
good.
Yeah, I like Taki. I think kid's got some potential, and he's one of those bigger guys that we can put in at the nose, that has a little more of the size, not these undersized 290-pound nose tackles,
And I love me some LDR, but I think he could use a little bit more size. Yeah. I love LDR, and I love what he brings to the table and his potential and his ceiling, but I think he could afford to put on a little bit more bulk there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to put him at nose tackle, now if you're going to put him out at the 5 tech or the defense, defensive end with the hand in dirt, then I think he's fine where he's at. And I think that's probably where he's going to be right now, is backing up, Tillery or Bullard or whoever's starting on the defensive line. But the defensive linemen that were released, Tyler Manoa, James Lynch,
no surprise,
was released for the 87th time in his Vikings career. Jonah Williams was kind of a surprise. Kind of had, a lot of people had him pegged on making the 53.
Yep.
There's talk that he might come back to the practice squad. There's no veteran limit on, you can only have a certain number of veterans, but I heard a couple of places where they might want to try to get him back on the, Dan, exactly what I was mentioning. LDR is a 3-5 technique. And I think
he could use a little bit more bulk, but that's just me. He might be fine where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the speed and got the motor. You get small. Yeah, and Norsevius.
I know what he did. So
yeah, Norsevius. This is the next guy on my list, and extremely, I guess, not a surprise that he didn't make it, but more disappointed.
Yeah, he was. I had him pegged as a breakout guy this offseason.
Yeah, and the Vikings had him pegged as a breakout guy. We talked about it before the draft and stuff. He was a guy that they were hoping was going to, step up this year.
Great college tape, I thought. And that's what led me to believe that next step was coming, and it just never did.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that came off of that LSU defense from a couple of years ago that put 10, 12 players or whatever it was into the NFL, and. It was kind of telling. I saw this in the one play on last Saturday when he was out there. I forget which quarterback it was at the time, but Roy had gotten a little bit of pressure, and quarterback broke the pocket and took off running, and Roy made about 4 steps and just stopped.
And just
I'm not gonna catch him. So I just
finish, man.
Even if you know you're not gonna get to him. You cannot do stuff like that when you're on a roster bubble.
No.
So so I'm questioning if the drive and the desire was there at all for Roy. I mean, we kind of saw that last year too, that, he'd show spurts once in a while, but then, so, it's kind of,
it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And that's why, these other guys took their chance and they took advantage of it. That's why you make
guys like Taki and guys like LDR and guys like Jalen Redmond, coming in here, and those guys stepped up, and that's the kind of players that you want. You don't want guys that give up on a play once it breaks contain out from behind you, because you're going to have to run after it.
That's just an ugly look. That's not a good look for a player.
No,
trying to make a roster.
No, and when I saw that on Saturday, I'm like, he's not making the roster.
Yeah.
So, They had talked about trying to trade him this morning.
Trying to trade all sorts of guys off our team that never came to fruition.
Wongwu was another one they tried to trade.
Another one.
Awesome.
Another one.
And Awesome was stuck.
Yep.
So, I mean, we can talk about the inside linebackers here next since you brought up Asamoah. There was a lot of talk that they were going to try to trade him.
The four guys we picked were the 4 guys that made it.
Yep. He made the roster along with Camus Grugier-Hill, Blake Cashman, and, of course, Ivan Pace Jr. Those are your 4 inside linebackers. I could see some movement there.
Possibly, yeah.
If maybe they could still work out a trades with somebody to get Asamoah moved, if they need another roster spot for somebody else that comes in, or he could get outright released as well.
Evans was on the trade talks too, and he's on the roster. We're getting the corners, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. The outside linebackers, a couple of, I know fans not happy with some of these, but Owen Porter was released yesterday, which was a little bit surprising. He had a pretty good preseason.
He'll be back on the practice squad.
I think he will too.
Him and Gant from the inside linebackers.
Dallas Gant, yeah. I
forgot him. He'll be back on the practice squad too.
Yeah, and Jordan Kuzniak was placed on injured reserve, but he's done for the year with that. So kind of surprised. I mean, they must have seen something they liked with him in order to keep him. They could have just, released him, but
who was that?
Jordan Kuniak or however you say that.
Yeah.
The Polish dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was disappointed that Richter didn't make it. I think he's going to get scooped up. I could see him going on a 53 somewhere. If not, and you get lucky and he's squeaking through the practice squad, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, I heard some talk, some of the beat guys and stuff. Zolgad was one of them. Doogie Wolfson's another one. Some of these guys that say, that Richter still got some holes in his game, and that's why he didn't make the 53.
Okay.
And they're thinking that because of that, they're hoping to be able to get him onto the practice squad. They like him and they want him around. It just that
right. Just because they release these guys doesn't mean they don't like them. But yeah, right. I get it.
That edge rush room, that was
it's deep.
Yeah, we were concerned about it before free agency, and now we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's one of the deepest areas of the team.
One of the things that we talked about, what was it, months back, everybody was worried about us losing Hunter, and we were saying, I'd rather have a bunch of guys that could do really well at their job than just having to look for one guy to get all the sacks. I think this year we're looking at sacks for everybody, man. Everybody's getting sack lunches this year.
Well,
as opposed to where last year it was mostly Hunter doing the hunting for sacks. I think when you got 5 guys that could get all those sacks, I will take that over just the one guy standing out that you're looking for to make a play every single down.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about the other, I was a little bit surprised that Pat Jones made the roster, but I think, he must have been showing more in practice than he showed.
It's not like he's a bad player. He's just not getting home more often than not.
Yeah.
He gets to that next level, but he's just not getting home.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. I mean, it's
right.
Split second, and a lot of those times he's in there in the backfield, he's making that play.
I thought
he's just a split second that he's missing, that he's not making those plays.
And I thought he would be a potential trade candidate, as an edge rusher.
Absolutely,
and being the fact he's, and it still could happen, I suppose. But other guys that were released, though, Andre Carter II had himself a very good game on Saturday. I figured Richter would have made it over him, but it ended up that both of them
right,
got let loose. Again, hearing that they want Carter back onto the practice squad, but also hearing that there may be some interest in him elsewhere. So
yeah,
questionable as to whether he comes back. The aforementioned Bo Richter let go, of course. Gabriel Murphy placed on short-term IR, took the second IR spot. And
I'm so excited to see this guy
you know,
play at some point.
he was running with the ones early on
Yeah.
before he got injured.
Yeah, I
You know,
think
so
we
that
see
they
him take
like
the
him
field
that
at some
well.
point this year. I think he takes the field
Yep.
at some point this year, and a reserve role. I don't think he latches onto a starting role with the depth that we have at edge rusher. But having a
Right.
guy like him in that room that can come in and spell somebody when they're tired is going to be huge for this defense.
Mhm.
Even though we
Absolutely.
haven't seen, all we've got is the whispers of the great things this guy has done in the practice field prior to his injury. I mean, I'm excited to see what this guy can do when he's unleashed on the field. So we'll see. Granted, he's still an undrafted rookie free agent, but we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see what all
Norsefius
the hubbub is about.
Norsefius apparently not a big Andre Carter fan.
He had the strip sack this weekend.
Yeah. The sack is a
It's pretty
sack
good.
wherever you get it. I mean, I'll take a bump into sack. Doesn't matter who the credit
Sack is
goes
a
to.
sack
We got
man for sure.
Yep. Needs to go serve his time. Yeah, he's got, I don't know how that'll happen. Now, when he comes back to the practice squad, I think his waiver still is in effect because he was on the practice squad for most of last year. But
the thing was with Andre Carter was he's just so tall and lanky that it's hard for him to bend around the edge like you'd like to see from an edge rusher, getting down close to the ground and bending around the edge. And that was something that, I think the more he works on and develops, and if he's able to do that, he might be a quality starter someday in this league. It's just smoothing everything out, like polishing him, to where.
Yeah. And coming from the service academies, they're usually a little bit more raw than somebody from an SEC
North.
school or something like that. But
I agree, North.
I do too. Yeah.
More of a just pure, you can just look at the guy and see football in Richter, but yeah, I agree. Richter's way more pro ready than Carter.
I'm not going to argue that point either. I thought Richter was making the roster, and I had Carter being a practice squad guy when we talked about it last week and for the last couple of weeks. But I think they both end up on the practice squad, provided they don't get claimed. But other than that,
and Philly's got a pretty deep defensive line.
Yeah,
but
I don't like the Eagles either. But
right,
it was kind of interesting that we smoked our backups smoked their backups as badly as we did the other day. But into the safety room, we ended up keeping a handful of them again. Of course,
the guys that we should have kept, we kept, I believe.
The only one questionable is Jay Ward.
Yeah. But the dude has made plays here. He has.
He has made plays. He's also
had a couple of those what the fuck moments too. Yes. But he's had good splash plays. It's like he hasn't done nothing because he's done something. It's just sometimes he's that type of player where you're like, what the fuck are you doing here? And hopefully that can get
I remember a couple of crucial penalties on special teams last year, but and he did struggle as a cornerback, but now they moved him back to safety again once they brought in Gilmore. So the safeties again, Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Jay Ward,
Theo Jackson,
your 5 safeties. Released were Bobby McCain, who, was a veteran. Yeah. All good, Norris said that. That's why we're here to discuss this. We take, happy about cuts, mad about cuts, understandable.
Yep.
I was pissed when I found out Bo Richter got released too, but talking to some other people, I think there's a pretty good chance we get him back on the practice squad. So I'll be okay with that if it happens.
Corner room.
And then of course the other big one. Yep. They tried to trade him pretty much all day long, but in the end they released former first round pick Lewis, never to be seen or heard from again.
I'm glad that we were able to wash our hands finally of that. Yep. He had a good game a couple of games back, but I mean, I was ready to be done with the experiment last year after all that went down. So I'm glad that we washed our hands of him and we're moving on. We're moving forward. No.
It's a short answer. No. I don't know that he would come back to the practice squad even if we wanted him to, but
I think it's best off that he goes and starts
The-
somewhere else, a fresh look somewhere else.
Yeah. The biggest thing with Luke was seeing that irked me here he had that game against Cleveland that was awesome. And he had a chance to build on that. And he came out against the
Shit the
Eagles and he
bed.
played like the Lewis scene that's played for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Good evening,
Yeah,
Gary.
I put him in the same category as far as mental aspect as I did with Booth Jr.
Yeah.
At this point, where it's just not there right now. He's just not there, not with the Vikings. I mean, I feel like the best thing for him is just to be somewhere else and start fresh at this point.
I agree. Would have been nice to, maybe got a 7th round pick for him or something, but it just, but and for the amount of heat that quite rightly so for, that 2022 draft class, I got to at least give him credit. I was talking to somebody on Twitter earlier today about this. At least Kwesi can put the ego aside and say, yep, this didn't work. And we're going to move on.
Spielman would have never done that.
No, if Lewis Cine was a Rick Spielman pick and Rick Spielman was still the GM,
he'd still be on the roster. He'd still be on
the roster, and he would probably get an extension next year because Rick still would not be able to admit that he fucked up the pick. Yeah, exactly, Reggie.
Yep.
That's
Brian, you're right.
Exactly right. Booth the same way, yeah, and Andrew Booth looked good in that one game in Dallas, and then last game he got absolutely torched. So I never did hear if he made the roster.
We do got 3 guys on our roster from that 2022 draft that are still on the roster. And Evans and Chandler and who else was it? Oh, Ed Ingram, my favorite interior lineman.
Yeah. But I hope Cine goes on and a change of scenery and does well as long as he doesn't go to an NFC North team and turns
I'm
around
ready to
there.
forget about him. Whatever he does, I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, Andrew Booth did make the Dallas 53. Boy, their quarterback room must really be ass if Booth made it down there, but
must be a Zimmer guy.
Yeah. Zimmer must like him for some reason or another, but anyway, enough on the safeties. Let's roll into the cornerbacks. Again, kept a room full of guys there. The guys that cut though, Jalen was cut early. No huge surprise there. He played a little bit last year, but just another one of those guys bouncing along the Gary's got trees down from last night's storm. I heard the cities got hit pretty hard. Well, they had to delay the opening of the state fair this morning because of all the damage at the fairgrounds, I guess. But
we had power go out once, but as far as trees down, nothing down in the southwest corner here, anyways.
We didn't get a thing up my neck of the woods, but yeah, I've heard that Norrisville, kind of the thing there in Norrisville.
About 2 minutes ago, yeah.
Any of the corners play special teams? Evans.
I can see Evans having to play special teams.
And Evans has played some special teams.
Yep.
But the 4 cornerbacks that we cut, AJ Green III, Jalen Williams, Nashawn Wright, who we got in that Andrew Booth Jr. trade, and to the dismay of many Vikings fans, Duke Shelley also released.
I don't think we mentioned Bobby McCain getting released too in the safeties. Bobby McCain got released as well.
Well, we called him. I mentioned him.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Duke Shelley, our buddy Ted Glover had a
Avoca, Gary.
Pretty good quote on Twitter when somebody was worked up over Duke Shelley getting cut. He said he was buried deeper on the depth chart than the Titanic. So
that quarterback room went from being pretty gloomy to being at least, I believe, middle of the pack in the league.
Yeah, I mean, you got Shaq Shaq Griffin's starting to work his way back in. I think he's practicing again now.
Ibaka.
We've got Caleb Evans did make the roster. Fabian Moreau made the roster. Trying to think who else was on the bottom of the group that made it. Of course, well, the big one, of course, Nudie McGlothern, another undrafted free agent who, worked himself into a significant playing role, and he's probably
my pick for
cornerback.
Mr. Mankato before the training camp.
Yep, and he's your CB4 right now.
Yep.
So
I have good, I have big plans and big feelings for Nudie in the future, whether it be towards the end of this season or going into next year. Man, him and Blackman, when Blackman comes back, I mean, that corner room is starting to brighten up a little bit.
Yeah, it's respectable now instead of being dismal.
Yeah,
like what it was a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Hey, if we can get enough coverage to let the guys that are going after the quarterback get home, that's all we need, man.
Yeah. And that was kind of the thing last year. When we lost the pass rush, the back end got exposed. Now we've upped that back end a little bit, which should hopefully, the two work hand in hand, and we up the front end and we up the back end. So hopefully that makes everything better.
This is a top 10 D for certain, and this is a top 10 D, I believe, on paper right now.
We were
quarterback room, I'm saying, is probably 15, middle of the pack, but as overall defense, I believe this.
Oh, absolutely.
Defense is more than capable of being a top 10 unit.
We were fringe top 10 in most categories last year, and this defense is going to be better this year.
Yes, I hate this. I don't hate to say this, but I mean, I'm maybe drinking the purple Kool-Aid a little bit, but top 5, I think, after all is said and done, once you get to midseason and things are really kicking on all cylinders, I think top 5 isn't out of the question as far as this defense goes.
No, it's not a preposterous statement by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, when Flores took it over last year, we said, if we could get top 15 to 20, it would be a huge step around, which they did. They were, I forget what the final ranking was, 12th or 13th, something like that. Doc's chugging the purple Kool-Aid. Hey, this time of the year, why not? Call it. Northspeace is calling it a top 70. I'll take top 7. I can handle. I'm happy with that.
Which leads me to this: is it all comes back falling down on the one guy, and that is Sam Darnold at quarterback. As far as this team is going to go, as far as Sam Darnold takes us, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this ever since we signed Darnold. This is a wild card team, even with Sam Darnold.
We've talked about it offline. Me and you have talked about this.
Yep. Oh, we talked about it on the show as well.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, boom or bust. I mean, we're either gonna start out really hot and we're gonna be great, or it's just gonna not be good all year.
Yeah.
So,
but I think this defense is going to be the reason why we win a few games this year.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great if that's the case. Yeah, in spite of the quarterback play, but if Darnold could come out firing in all cylinders, playing like the number 3 quarterback he was, 4 or 5 years ago, that would be great.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing. GMAC, yes, I do. I really do. I'm not.
Donna Show was Homer. A shitty defensive coordinator.
Yep. But yes, I absolutely believe that this team should be a wild card team this year.
At the very least, I believe we should be a wild card, even under Sam Darnold. There's so much. Yep. There's too much talent to look across this roster to not be at least a wild card team, in my opinion.
We were 7-10 last year
with 4 different fucking starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, the last half of the season, the revolving door of ass at quarterback.
This team is built to win now. This team is built to win now.
It is. It absolutely is. I mean, are we a Super Bowl team this year? Probably not, but are we a wild card team?
Yeah. The shake of the dice. You don't know what's going to happen. So,
I
think we're a wild card team at the very least, even under Sam Darnold.
Yep. And depending upon what the rest of the division does, winning the division's not out of the realm of possibility. We won we made the playoffs before with worse quarterbacks than Sam Darnold. Christian Ponder took us to the playoffs.
You can't go into the season scared.
Jackson took us to the playoffs.
Right.
We look back at that
yes.
laundry list of suck that Denny Green ran us through and Brad Childress back in the early 2000s. Your Bubby Bristers and your Gus Farrat's and your, all of those guys.
Elvis Kermack, Gus Farrat, Sage Rosenfels.
Yeah.
Your Brooks Bollingers of your,
all of those guys. We were wild card teams and stuff at the very least at that point in time for a lot of this stuff. And, as long, again, we're going to preface this, as long as the key players start healthy, don't start from where Donatel left. We start from now. Our division's tougher. We have the worst quarterback in the North. Not saying, but I think this team is better than, I know this team is better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. They're, the over under, I think, is like six wins for this team. And
the thing is I think this team believes they are better than what they're being told they are. And I believe this team believes they could be scary for the rest of the league. You can't go into the season scared, that you're going to lose all your games. I mean, I think these guys are ready to go. I think they believe in themselves and the culture that KOC has instilled. I think we're going to be just fine.
Yep.
So
I'm going to comment on Josh here. Adrian drug T-Jack and Ponder to the playoffs. You're not wrong.
Right.
But you say Adrian Peterson did it then. Why can't Justin Jefferson do it now? We saw last year in Green Bay, the first half of the season, Jordan Love, there were people that wanted to run him out of town. And then guess what? Aaron Jones comes back, and all of a sudden that offense turned the corner. We get a running game this year going with Aaron Jones and with Ty Chandler. That's going to make a big difference. The defense, like I mentioned a little bit ago, is going to win this team some games this year. In the end, we all love to see the high-flying greatest show on turf run up the score, 98 Viking, putting up 35 to 40 points a game. But as it sits, I don't care. Yeah, we all like that, and I'm not turning that. But when you look at what really matters is the wins and losses. It doesn't matter if we won a game 42-10 or if we win a game 7-3.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the year, when you go back and look at the schedule, it's the only thing that matters is the W after the game. So, and I think I look for Jefferson to take a huge leap forward. Not that he's not a leader now, but I look for him to take a huge leap forward in that leadership aspect in that locker room. I think that we're going to see it more as a fan on the sideline.
He already is.
Right? Yeah, he already is. I mean, you're already seeing it. But I mean, I think we're all going to realize why he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. And he's going to prove it as a leader, as a player, as a human being. And I'm looking forward to this season. Let's just leave it at that.
And to G-Mac's commentary, anything can happen. Why not us? Career journeyman, and has been up until that point and has been ever since again. Case Keenum took this team to the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
And this defense is every bit as good as that defense was. I believe it's going to be this year with the pass rush we have now. I'm still a little concerned on the defensive line, but we're better than we were last year at the defensive line. And, when you've got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, probably is going to miss 3 games at some point in time here.
Might not even be till next season.
And it might not.
Depending on the legal process, So, and with the depth of that, everybody was talking about wanting to bring in Hunter Renfrow and Adam Thielen and all that shit in this offseason. We have one of the deepest wide receiver rooms in the league right now.
Jalen Naylor showed during camp and the preseason games what he can do if he stays healthy. Staying healthy is the biggest thing.
Tristan Jackson sure showed up.
Oh,
this
God,
preseason, showing what he can do as well. So, I mean, this This wide receiver room is deep enough for me. So
Yep. No, you're absolutely right on that, GMAC. But comparing the two, and I know you are. I'm
we don't
I
argue
just
here. We just banter
no
back and forth.
right. Where Randall Cunningham took us to the NFC Championship game. Yeah, Randall Cunningham had been retired and was
Jeff
laying
fucking George the next
Yeah.
year.
Cunningham was laying tile in Las Vegas and came back and Brett Favre was washed up and came back here and had
Minnesota is known for taking washed up guys and revitalizing their careers for one thing, which basically is the gist of what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
usually they're only good for about 1 year. Randall Cunningham, Jeff George, Case Keenum,
Brad Johnson.
Yeah, we did get.
He was good for a few years, but then he went and won a fucking Super Bowl at Tampa Bay. So
we did get 3-ish or so good years out of Warren Moon, but beyond that, it's I'm excited. I want to see what's going to happen here. Could we be extremely disappointed and whatever by the end of the year? Yeah, but
I agree too. With Brian up there, if with this roster, if Darnold stinks, his career is over as a starter. I mean,
absolutely.
Darnold has a lot riding on this year for sure. Yes.
Yep. Sick of the off season. Well, I got great news for you, GMAC, because the off season's over. The season starts 1 week from
11
Thursday.
days away. Well, next week Thursday, yeah. So we're 9 days away from the first regular season game and 11 days away or 12 days away from ours. So,
yep. Gary, great point. We got the cold blood, the baby-faced assassin in Will Reichert there that hopefully will cure us as Vikings fans from that PTSD that we get, that sphincter clenching cold sweat crap that we always got every time Greg Joseph or whoever. Greg Joseph, by the way, won the kicking job in Green Bay today, beating out Anders Carlson, who
I thought Anders had a great fucking preseason over there. Well, let him go with Greg Joseph. That's fine by me.
I'm fine with that. They're probably looking back to that couple of games that he beat Green Bay at US Bank a couple of years ago on that walk-off kick. And
there we go. That's the one I wanted to put up next. Now, the thing is, though, is imagine Darnold goes out and has a year where he takes his team to the playoffs. We get a wild card spot, and let's say we win a playoff game. All that anticipation from this offseason, imagine what the anticipation next offseason is going to be when you got McCarthy coming back from injury, leading a playoff team. Things. I mean, we got to get through this season first and foremost, but I mean, the future is bright here in Minnesota, in my opinion.
Yeah. Norsevius, his nickname in college was the baby-faced assassin. So I don't know if that's going to transfer over or if they'll come up with something different for him. But
the Third Reich.
Let's stay away from that one.
Yeah.
Josh, he said Green Bay is excited for Greg Joseph. If you watched Anders Carlson kick last year, I never feel sorry for Green Bay, but I can understand their frustration. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Brian, 50 years seems like everyone overlooks the Vikings.
Agreed.
It's a great season. The culture's building right. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a very good point. I'm in that same boat. I'm the same age you are basically. And yeah, it always seems like when the expectations are through the roof for the Vikings, they shit the bed. When nobody thinks they have a chance, that's when they go out and surprise people. And it ends up being a very entertaining season.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So that's all. Anyway, that's all the cut downs. One last thing I wanted to do tonight, since we brought this up at the beginning, and I want you guys in the chat to throw your vote in here on this too. Who are we picking for our Mr. Mankato for this preseason? The 4 guys I have as finalists are Tristan Jackson, Dwight Nudie McGlothern, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and Taki Timani.
You got to go Tristan Jackson, I believe, out of those four. But that's my take. I mean, Nudie did really well too, but Jackson put on a show this preseason.
He did. Now he's borderline whether he was eligible or not because he's been around for a while. But we got Reggie with Jackson, Doc Proto with LDR, GMAC, and Robert with
the kicker. Yeah, it's another good one for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought about putting him on there, but I kept him off just because when you draft a kicker in the 4th round, there's a lot expected out of him. So Jackson. Yeah, it looks like Tristan Jackson.
Overwhelmingly Tristan Jackson for sure.
Yep. Dave with Tristan Jackson. I had picked LDR beforehand, and you know, and you had McGlothern, both of them deserving of the deal. Taki Timani, guy that we didn't really think had a bit much of a chance to do anything at a time, surprised the shit out of most of us. I love what that kid put out on tape, and good evening, Bob. Welcome to the show. But yeah, you got to give it to Tristan Jackson. I think it's, every game he showed out.
Yeah. He took advantage of every opportunity he was given this offseason.
Yeah. He basically was wide receiver 1 in all 3 of the preseason games from a stat line anyway.
Yep.
Jalen Naylor didn't play much. Sherfield had some decent ones. Jashwan Jones had a couple but if you get cut on the final 53, you void your eligibility for Mr. Mankato. So,
and you know what? 2 claps for Jackson. 3 years been trying to make this final 53-man roster after training camp. Finally breaks through into the 53-man roster. I'm proud of the kid. That's how it's done.
Yep. It's another, kind of an Adam Thielen type thing. You come in on the practice squad and you work your ass off and you make yourself finally getting to the active roster. Did Jaron Hall surprise anybody in the preseason?
After that first game, first game I've seen what I've always seen. We've seen what we've always seen out of Jaron Hall in that first game. But the second and third game, he came out firing on all cylinders, man. He moved that offense and he managed that Kevin O'Connell type of system. And by all means, this guy has not been talked about tonight. Wes Phillips calling plays.
Yep.
That was great. I mean, he did a great job.
I honestly think Wes Phillips the discussion should be had that Wes Phillips should be calling plays during the regular season. Granted, this is more, a little bit more vanilla and they're not showing everything, but
mixing up the run in the pass though was really well.
Yeah, there was more balance, and hopefully Kevin O'Connell keeps that going when we get into the regular season, and I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on that this year.
And Hall got into a rhythm is basically what it was from the Browns game to throughout the Eagles game. He got into a rhythm and it showed. And outside of the one high pass that got nullified on the penalty or whatever, that what should have been an interception, he's looked great.
Yep.
The last 2 games.
I agree. That first game, he looked like he did when he played against the Packers. The last 2 games, he looked like he did in that opening series against Atlanta last year.
And I believe going into the preseason, the whole intent was to play. After the McCarthy injury, was just to let Hall play and then sneak him onto not sneak him, but get him onto the practice squad. He made it to the point where you weren't able to sneak him onto the practice squad because somebody was going to pick him up if you let him go.
Yep. I just want to say hey to Scrappy L got money. He must be a Tennessee Titans fan, but hey, we welcome in fans of other teams into the show too. So welcome. He thinks the Titans are going to win Super Bowl 59, 17-0. Hey,
Will Levis, MVP.
Yeah, as long as they're not playing us. Wes Phillips not calling offensive plays, doesn't think so. I was impressed with how Wes ran things on the offensive side of things. Now, again, preseason versus regular season are two completely different things. Kevin O'Connell does call the plays during the regular season, but Wes Phillips is the guy that does the game prep during the week and helps get everything set up for game day.
Right. He coordinates.
Kind of the same that Kevin O'Connell did that for Sean McVay in the Rams.
He offensively coordinates throughout the week.
Yeah. So, but with that, we've been going for an hour and 15 minutes here already. So, a lot of great discussion tonight. You know, a lot to talk about. Football is here, guys. We're just a little over a week out, about 10, 11 days. Have the Packers winning the division this year? I sure hope not. I probably Detroit. I think Detroit's going to take a step back, but we're going to talk about our season predictions and stuff next week when we do the preview show for the be next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
All right. So yeah. Again, thank you everybody for joining. Sticking with us for the hour and 15 we've been going. If you haven't done so, hit the like, hit subscribe, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, all of that stuff. We're out and about all the time, on the various social medias. So, say hey, join us, come watch. We're going to try to be doing live shows every week this season. I love this format a lot more than the pre-recorded shows. So we're going to try to keep doing this, unless some circumstances don't allow us to. But
I couldn't even tell you the last time we did a studio show.
Yeah, I can't think of it either. But yeah, again, next Thursday, 7 p.m. will be the season preview show. So make sure you tune in then. Big thank you again, everybody, for watching, commenting. I love the discussion, love the talk. Shout out to the Filipino fan club, as always, Nympha, Sam, everybody over there. And with that, why don't you take us out of here, Lance?
1 week and a half away. Let's go. Let's go get it. I'm excited. We got the Thursday night game next week, and then right after that, 2 days away, and we got the Vikings game against the Giants. So let's go get it. I'm excited. I hope you're all excited. Thanks for coming tonight. We enjoy you all always. And with that being said, we'll see you all next week, Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m. Millie, Aubrey, if you're out there watching, Dad loves and misses you. Skull.
Have a good evening, everybody.